Welcome to our long-term plan workshop. We have an apology for lateness for Councillor Somerville because the free bus service wasn't running today and he's got to use a car and he's just trying to find a car park. So he is underway. Welcome to all those online. If I just remind those online that when you're not talking, if you could just ensure that you are muted so we don't get the feedback, and to raise your hand if you want to talk, and we will monitor that as best we possibly can. If you feel we have missed you, just give us a hollow and we'll get you in as soon as possible. Today is about a progress report on our long-term plan. You'll see by the agenda, it's a memory jog on our consultation document where that is at the moment, and an opportunity for us to go over the key sections of the document and have a look at what's in the document, which is to me very exciting because it's a critical part of our whole process. And then we'll be looking for some feedback, and our team will show us the way that we can give feedback to ensure that we're comfortable with the document and we have the very best document possible going out. So I'm going to hand it straight to Mr. Donnelly and Mr. Rosler to...
Well, yeah, I'll just say a couple of things because Richard, obviously, he will be here. He's heading back from Central, so he said he'd be a bit late. So he would have jumped in and just sort of given you the overview of what's happening, but you've sort of summed it up quite nicely. The two parts to this. One is to obviously have a look at the CD, and Mike will take you through that and what we've got in there in the key parts. Get your feedback just that where we're at, so that primarily so that you're not going to get that in a couple of weeks' time on the 20th and go, oh, you know, what's this all about? So you get a preview of it now. We can look at anything that may need a bit of a tweak. Mike, I assume you'll probably just touch a little bit on the meeting we just had with audit, that there'll potentially be a few things that we have to, take into account. That audit, we just had to catch up with them and they sort of gave some things that they are looking at. So there are some things that, we'll have to make some tweaks, and mainly around just fleshing out some of the narrative and things where they point out, have we been clear enough about what's in certain proposals and what the impact of that is. So We've got things that we're working on that. And then the other bit that we've got is around what our engagement plan is, and want to get council's feedback on, once we get the CD done and we hit the consultation and we're out there, what our planning and thinking is around that, the process that we'll go through, where we're planning to go and what we're planning to do, and how that's going to pan out. And Joe and Sarah are sort of going to step through that. But
excellent. All comfortable with that process? Carry on, Mr. Osler.
Yep. So so that's.
I might just have to we haven't got the microphones today, so I'll just ask you to make sure it's for those that we use the outside voice for those in the cyberspace that listen to us. Thanks.
Yeah. Mike. So that's the purpose of the workshop. Nicely put. There's two sides of it: the consultation document and the engagement approach. Look, at the end of the workshop, you'll receive the consultation document as it stands, and as Nick said, it's a work in progress, and we're shaping up for the hot review with Wellington, Office of the Auditor General, and as Nick just said, we had a first kind of feedback from Deloitte today on that, and we're not looking too bad, so it's positive, but a little bit of water to go under the bridge there, so that's probably looking like OAG early next week. So far so good. The other bit we'll be looking for a bit of direction from you today around just the scope of the face-to-face engagement. So if we can get that out of today's workshop, that'd be brilliant. And then the follow-up will be a schedule where you can actually let staff know what you'd like to attend, and we can support in more detail. So I'll just get the slides up. Kyle, do you have the...
Are you going to share your screen?
Yeah, I can do that, yep. So I can't get host. I think you need to... Host disabled participant.
Multiple participants can share. You should be able to share. Let's start with the LTP slides, or do you want to have another go? Is it-
I'll have another go, yeah, because at some point I'm going to have to share
Yeah.
the other bits and bobs. Oh, here we go. Yep. Sweet.
Wonderful, thank you.
Excellent. Right. Okay. Right. So look, just a quick recap actually of this. Full screen.
So
Oh, right. I'll have this have to do.
Slideshow. Just click your button bit. Yeah, click that. Yep. Now just go punch that out. Yeah. Okay, now you're on there. Is that good enough? Or do you want to get rid of that?
Well,
That'll be fine.
yeah,
It means you've got controls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just trying to maximize the screen. Look, just to recap on the process. Look, I saw this morning. I thought I could throw some road cones in there and look a bit like downtown Dunedin. But look, just some simple messaging out of that is that you've got a staff have had direction from you from the 21st meeting. So we have that draft budget. And you've given us direction to formalise the consultation document, the draft LTP, and we've been working at pace to achieve that. So today is about providing you with a view into some of that work, which is obviously, as we said, the CD and the engagement work. That's just some of it. It's a bit of an iceberg actually. And looking at that beyond consultation, you can see that May is all about reporting and considering the feedback and just making some final decisions. And June is effectively about staff giving effect to your final decision. So that's the stuff in front of you. So I don't know if there's any questions around that. I'll take questions as I go. Right, I think if
Timeliness is critical.
yeah,
Right, that we keep to those dates.
the key thing is we are. I mean, it's very positive. Yep. So the just a memory jog around consultation. I can sort of quickly flick through this before I hand over to Joe and we go through the CD. Look, it's the CD is really a product of or requirement of statute. So it's got a bit of a, dare I say, a kind of a templatey, clunky sort of feel to it. And that's something that we all grapple with across the country. So the challenge is we try and make it as palatable as we can for the community in terms of it. It's a good read, and importantly, it reflects your story and not where others want to take it in terms of Audit or Wellington or whoever. So at the moment we're looking quite good there. There's some details around the act that we follow and the structure that Joe's going to take you through reflects the things that we have to say, but importantly, and as Joe is going to confirm, it's really a document that's got to be easily understood by the community. And the initial feedback we're getting from Deloitte, from the external perspective, is that it is so, with a bit of refinement, but we're well on track. So I'll just pass over to Joe.
Oh, so if we could get the, I'll go through this if you like.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the document, we've broken it into sections with introduction, challenges and opportunities, consultation topics, which are the three that you will be aware of from, I believe, last year when you signed those off. Looking across all of our work and the infrastructure strategy as well will be in there, and crucially paying for the work and have your say. So I can actually share my screen and get this document up if you would like.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I can do that. Sorry about this,
Oh, yeah.
guys, if you
Do
just bear with
Do you want
me.
me to put it up?
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, so the supporting material will also go online as well. There'll be the draft LTP itself, which is the big document, the 180 odd pager, the financial strategy, infrastructure strategy, rates calculator, which will be really important, and the online submission form as well. And we'll have hard copies of the consultation document available for people at the at receptions and at. So planning to use district council libraries as well for that, so that we can cover all our bases.
Kate, you had a question?
Just checking on the rates calculated for people's properties. Yeah, when you've done that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Whether that includes people being able to change between a CV, land value and or an improvement value. Just a question since afternoon.
Yeah, so I understand that Sarah Munro's doing some work on.
So what do you
Yeah.
mean being able to change?
Well, a calculator usually allows you to go onto your site and say, well, if it's this way, we're changing some things, the way we're doing capital values, maybe land values. Can they say, well, what happens? I think then, and improvement value, maybe this is something that's just been posed to me, maybe a better way, and what would it look like? Would they be able to do that in that
No,
context?
that's not, where it's called a rates calculator, it'll actually, what it'll show them is for their property, their assessment, it will show them what they got rated this year.
Yeah.
And what they would get rated in year one under the existing rating model and under the new rating model. So it'll do it line by line.
Yeah.
So if we're proposing that, for example, that a particular rate is in the new one is uniform, well, that's what you see. It doesn't have the ability to go, oh, but what if that amount was, you can play around with how that would work, because that's like a whole, if you like, you know, that's like
Yep.
a whole calculation model. But what this is doing is, why we call it a rates calculator, it's effectively showing the calculations
Yep.
for
that's fine.
your rates for your property under those two scenarios compared back.
Okay.
So that's what it's doing. It
Yeah.
doesn't allow people to go, well, if it was, and you talked about improvement value, I mean, we don't do anything just based on improvement versus, you know, we have some that are based on land value, so it will show what the rating base is,
Yep.
whether it's uniform or that one's capital, that one's land, that one's area. But it doesn't go, well, what if that was done on a different
Yep,
basis? Because it
that's
would
fine.
have to go back behind the scenes and rerun that across the database.
Yeah, it's just whether we can, and yeah, I've just had an inquiry at the meeting, in council meeting, and said, well, I think that because of the Tonkin Taylor and what it says, we've actually got that wrong, being whether it's an area value, it should be by value, capital value or improvement value. And it's just a valid question. So it's, I'm going to have to ask for that information a different way. That's fine.
Yeah, that's, I'm sure we can calculate that, but to send that out
Yeah,
as a
you know,
calculator,
no, we can't.
comfortable?
Yeah.
Good.
Mm.
Andrew?
The question sort of follows along the same line, because then there's a subset. There's obviously going to be some options for, you know, whether it's the environment or public transport, you know, option A and option B or whatever. And if I use the example of the last LTP, we had two options for the biosecurity rate funded by land value, but we had one option that was an extra 3 million, the other one was extra 4 million. So going back to the rates calculator, you won't be able to have those subsets
No.
calculated out.
So-
You only have two options.
Yeah, so the rates calculator will be the preferred option,
Yep.
will be what's loaded in there. But what we talk about, like, say, if you take the environmental funding one, it will show, you know, it will show different amounts that could be funded via that, but it's only the preferred one that would be loaded in there. Otherwise, you end up with a rates calculator that would show a whole lot of different columns, and people won't actually have a clue what one, depending, you know, which one are we actually saying that we want to go with. So it's the preferred option only, but under those existing and new ratings model.
Yep. You think so, Elliot?
I was just wondering if you could only put in like your property, or you can just put any address and
You can put in any property. Yep.
Okay.
Thanks,
do you want me to
Jo.
Carry on.
Sorry.
That's good. That's good. Really good. Really good.
Happy to carry on.
Yeah, yeah, thanks, Jo.
So that's our cover. We've just designed it as a placeholder. So I just want to preface the fact that this document is not completely designed yet because we are still getting the content right in there. We've got to wait for the auditor's report. So we are just have a draft here for you today, and it needs to be proofed, and that the same with the document that you get. And that will include adding on things like macrons and the like that we need to make sure we have in there. So that's the cover, A Stronger Future for Otago, and we'll change the photo out to something that's not stock image, that's something that's local. If we could move on. So we have Gretchen's intro there, Building a Strong Future for Otago, which foreshadows all of the themes throughout the document, including the consultation topics. And then we have a table of contents there, which gives you what you're going to see in there. It just to let you know, this has been written in a way that is plain language for the public to understand. So this, just to let you know, this will not look like a council agenda. It's for people with a low readership age, but who just want to pick it up and read it very quickly and absorb it and then give their feedback on it. So investing in our environment is the first topic, and we've got some tables there which will be improved with some graphics, I think, once we get those in, and the paragraphs there. Then public transport is the next topic, with our proposals in there for Queenstown and Dunedin. And just to let you know too, this is actually not, these topics aren't in any particular order yet. So if you have a preference around order within the booklet, let us know as well, because we can actually change that. Changing how we rate is also a topic. And I believe that Sarah here and working with the people that we've been working with have made a good job of crunching this down and making it much more easy to understand. So your people will understand that.
So I'll just jump in there.
Yeah.
This is probably an example where design becomes important, where the reader can actually differentiate between the options, and design will help do that. So that's not there at the moment. So it feels like it's all condensed. So it won't look like that in the finish. And look, the how we rate bit, this is one area that we've had a bit of feedback from Deloitte around just refining how we tell the story, because it is a difficult one, as Joe's saying, because it is quite complex and there's a lot changing. It's quite a meaty policy review that you've gone through, that you've initiated and decided on.
And that's a little bit more rating stuff. So how all the various parts of the functions that we do are rated. So flood protection, drainage infrastructure, how that's rated, or proposed to be rated, flood protection and drainage. What else we got there? Catchment management, harbour navigational safety, and others that I can barely read.
Freshwater plan, yeah, just all the key
So it's
areas.
still a little bit small.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then these are just this is our BAU, but also important areas for people to look at. So in the previous CD, we called this our must-do projects. We can change that header to make it more appealing for people to read and to work out if they want to have a say on it. In the design side of things, we're planning to put a button on, or a design feature that says "Have your say" on all the parts where we want people to have to do that.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point. So between now and the finished product, there'll be clear links through to supporting information. And so, for example, the back to the rating proposal, and, Kate's and Andrew's questions around interest in detailed rating examples and things, there'll be links through to that information. And because this will be available in two formats, the online digital format and hard copy, the digital people will be able to just press hyperlinks and it'll just take them straight into that detail. So you'll be able to flick between it. So yeah.
I should also add that with each topic that we're consulting on, we have a piece at the bottom which asks a series of questions. And we quite like you guys, when you see the draft, to have a look at those questions and just make sure that we're asking them in the right way, that you feel your constituents would relate to. So we've got, these are all the the main areas of our work that's kind of our must-do material. And then we go into a little bit more rating information there.
Don't want to go too much into detail, but when you've got some of these lines which I can't read, sorry, need new glasses. But if they're things like specific river management, say, and we know from Michelle's last presentation, I think at a council meeting, that she's going to have work plans up. Will they be available by the time this goes out for consultation so people can actually see what they're getting for that bang for the buck? Is that so?
I need to go back and check. I know we're talking about, because we had that conversation with Otago. So I think the answer that Gavin and Michelle gave there was that they would be in support of the infrastructure strategy, but we just have to go back and confirm. I know that's their intent to have them in the future, is year on year rolling live maps.
That's right. Yep.
But we can go back and confirm whether or not. I mean, if they did, they'd be almost an appendix to the infrastructure strategy.
Yeah, it'd be really helpful
sit
to
in the background, but I don't know how far through that process they are.
Okay, can't do everything overnight.
Yeah. But no, it was one that we did discuss.
It was brought into it, you're right, thank you.
Yeah. So we have some ongoing current work sections. Partnership and communities is another one. Go up. Summary of spend, who pays, and then some quite figure-laden tables there.
Sorry, Joe,
You want us to stop?
No, I just got distracted. If we've been through the transport section,
Yes,
I was just going to make a point. Sorry if I missed this.
We can go back to that.
No, we don't need to go back. So you'll remember when we did the transport conversation, there's the two big proposals for Queensland need, and then there's the regional proposals. So rather than put a fourth key consultation topic in and have effectively three of them be transport, the regional components of it have dropped into this section. So we do specifically mention them. And so they're talked about there in terms of introducing those into regional services and also the trials in North Otago, Wanaka. So we have made specific mention of that piece of work in this other work category rather than make it another full consultation topic.
Subject to GPS. Good luck.
Sorry, Joe.
That's all right. So paying for the work, annual rates, our financial strategy, and this is where we start going into a little bit more depth about that. And that's Nick and Mike's material there that we have. I think we've edited this stuff. Some graphs. So there we have your say. Not yet signed off. So we've got at the back, we're going to have all this information. We'll send you a copy of it, and we would like to check accuracy. As we said, we want to check whether or not the questions are asked in the right way, and whether or not anything is missing, whether or not you think any information is missing. But remembering that the whole idea is that this document isn't really for us, it's for the public to understand and to pick it up and want to participate in our process. So keeping that in mind, we would very much love your feedback on it.
Joe, if I could go back to the catchment one, where that is effectively a new rate.
Yep.
That we're putting in, or it's a conglomerate of different bits and pieces that we're putting in. I'm just wondering, is there a story that's going with that, why we're doing that and the advantages to everyone, because it is an all of Otago rate? It's about page
I
20.
believe there is.
Yeah, and
So we're saying here that it aims to protect Indigenous species, biodiversity and water quality through a range of work programs. That we want to simplify how we fund this existing work, which will make it more transparent to ratepayers.
So the catch up we had with audit, that they sort of went through like all of these.
Yep.
We've tried to, pare this back so that it's as simple as we can make it, but with that you lose a little bit of the story.
yeah,
Their comment was it still needs a bit more of the why we're doing it.
Yep.
And added in, and we need to show a bit more of how the rates actually impact, which for this particular one is sort of explaining how it's currently rated through a whole lot of different rates, some
Yep.
general rates, rural water quality, and now we're moving to one. So we need to do a little bit more, if you like, breakdown on the rating impact analysis. But what we tried to do is for this first cut is not to dive into that, because of course, before you know it, that can balloon out to
Yep.
a lot of information. What we're trying to get there is the balance of keeping it simple but telling the story, and hopefully having people who then might be interested in, well, what does that actually mean for me? Going to the rates estimator to be able to see what it means to them
Yep.
personally. But we've got a bit more to flesh out on not just that one, but all of
Yeah,
those rates that we've, sections that we've got.
If there's not enough of a story there, please send us a little
yeah,
some
I'll come back to you,
feedback.
but that's,
Um,
understanding it.
And as you can see, we've got those green preferred option ticks as well, which is our way of showing this is our preferred
Yeah,
option.
Yeah. Andrew,
Yeah, just going back to the previous discussion, and trying to understand, obviously, you've got a limited amount of scope to be able to can only put X amount of information in the engagement document. And I was just thinking of a way, could you, under each of those key headings, catchment management rates, funding, freshwater farm rate, and as Mike just said about the link back to the 180 page document, you will find catchment management rates funding on page, I don't know, 200 and, oh, it won't be 200, 155, sorry. So at least then they go online, they don't have to scroll through the 180 page document. I suppose they could go to the index, I suppose. But I'm just wondering whether you could link that in some way, that further information won't be everybody's cup of tea, but there'll be a lot out there that want to know the background story.
Yeah.
I don't know, just thinking of a mechanism to.
Yeah, it's probably not so much back into the, into the LTP document itself, because that doesn't, but what we're also looking to do is supporting information to this with the, particularly for the engagement, when we're out there face to face and the online, is, if you remember, so we didn't go through it in Oamaru, but we had all those rates examples, so the samples, and we had the distribution and stuff. And what we were going to do, this one isn't a great example because this is sort of, we didn't have a page for it, but we had about, 28, 30 odd pages. And for things like the flood and drainage schemes, we had a couple of pages with each. What we were looking to do is sort of flesh out a bit more on this with a narrative and a bit more summary at the front, and then the examples. And we can do it for something like catchment management to explain that. Ideally it'd be a 1-2 pager for each one of these. That would be a bit of a cheat sheet on, here's what's going on with some examples. And for the flood and drainage schemes, again, for the ones that don't have a lot of zones, probably 2 pages. The like Clutha and the Tyree flood would be a bit more because they've got more examples. But to have that summary, and that would give you more information. Now it sits outside the CD, because if you put that in for everyone, all of a sudden your CD is going to be 100 pages, which you're not allowed to do. But it'll give us something and to refer people to for more detail, which is that interim step between the CD and the full rates estimator, and gives them more explanation, but also it'll give us a good, tool to use when we're out there at particular meetings. We'll be out, you can go, well, here's the 2-3 pager for Clutha when we're down in Balclutha, and here's the one for the Tyree, and here's one for Queenstown, here's the ones for transport. So in Dunedin, people might go, well, I'm interested in the transport one and the Leaf one. So, for example, so that's what we're looking at, but they're still work in progress.
Excellent.
Elliot,
I was going to ask the same question, but on those changes we've made around uniform charges and stuff, and where the opportunities for feedback on that would be within the CD.
Change it for the ones, the one.
Within the transport rate. and
Yeah,
also the
so
general
that'll be explained in the transport one, that here's what we've done. We're moving to the whole of district and we're doing it on a uniform basis, and there'll be more explanation. So that would be in the transport one, but it is referenced in here what we're doing, but whether we've got enough detail in here currently, audits feedback is, they like what we were trying to do to pare it back and keep it simple, but probably does need a little bit more, but without going too far.
Yeah.
So that's it's that balance. But we still want to have a bit more detail available, easily available for the people who want to get that next level. And then you get the people who go even further, who go, yeah, I'm diving straight into the estimator and I'll look at mine line by line and analyze it. Yep.
and Joe, are we sort of going to restrict this, even if we've got to add a wee bit more visit to that sort of 37, that's 37 pages, I think, but to 40 pages, that's sort of the.
Well, we've got to add in a few extra bits yet, so such as the audit report and the like.
Okay. Right.
But I don't see why not, as as long as we're sort of talking, 1-2 paragraphs max.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Um,
You don't want that to be such a cumbersome document. You're going to put a lot of people off getting into it.
The whole goal is that we want them to read it.
That's good.
Target number was always down in the 20s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's what they were aiming for when, when the legislation, and that's what the OAG is sort of saying is, these documents should be fairly concise and only focused on that. But I've also seen some councils that, they get pretty clever and the font starts getting pretty small to fit a lot in, which doesn't help the readability or anything or the understanding.
Yeah, Gretchen.
Might have been just me who missed it, but the bit about the large environmental project funding, where that
Just go back to
public transport, but
Yeah, it was definitely in there
It was
first.
the-
Yeah,
it was the
yeah,
first
is.
one.
Yep.
Current
Oh, right.
first.
Yeah,
must
it's
have
the first
just-
one on the.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, it's you again.
Yeah, I see.
Oh, that's
This
not a
one
large
here.
environmental project. That was Gretchen.
Thanks.
This one here.
Awesome. Oh, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, yeah.
Must have blanked and then just saw buses. Yeah,
We've got,
That's because a picture tells 1,000 words.
must have been, yeah.
More pictures.
we've got a full page on that one.
Yeah, thanks.
It's really good.
We're actually writing to a 14-year-old level in our team, but like you say, 20s. Good too.
You comfortable with that, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm very comfortable with that. Yeah. That was the fourth form, I think that was called there.
So under that one, have we got a preferred one?
Yes.
No.
We do.
Yeah. Audit picked up on that. We actually haven't got it marked, but the 500,000 is the first one is the preferred. That's what's in
Okay, yeah.
In our model,
That's
but
generally, yeah.
the other thing we have to point out is how that's funded. And in year one, we're going out talking to the public now about that, but it's actually year two where we would kick in with that once we've got the feedback from the year one's got the funding in there, but it's repurposed from elsewhere. Year two is where we would create the rating mechanism for it.
Oh, that's really difficult, isn't it? Because if we haven't got the rating mechanism when they do their calculator, they may be thinking they want that, but not realise it's not in their calculator. It needs to be a.
Yeah, but that's why we're trying to show there. That's what the impact would be Yeah, so people have to look and go, well, if I'm in, you know, if it's our district and we're picking up,
Yeah.
you know, we wanted 100,000 or.
But on
you
the
know,
rating calculator page, you need to make sure that people realise it.
Yeah, well, we just have to put a note there that,
Yeah.
this one's not included in that,
Yeah.
in that year one rating calculator, yep.
Yeah. Good, noted.
Any other questions on this? It's pretty much it, where we've got to with this.
Oh, sorry, the GPS is the elephant in the room now, which came out last night. And
So,
I just
we
think
discussed
this is,
briefly.
yeah, this is public meeting, so I just want to make
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, so it is being recorded, and I think we've had a question about accessing the recording. So the GPS did come out last night. It has some messages in it that we're going to have to consider as far as our ongoing public transport funding. At this stage, we're going to carry on with the preferred options that we've got. It's too early. It's only in draft. It's subject to a submission from, I would imagine, our council and probably number of other councils and others as well. So we will have to, we have flagged within our material that our public transport spends are contingent on co-funding. So that is throughout the document and is part of what we put up through the options analysis, and that will obviously play out over the next few months. But in terms of what we go out with, the release of the draft GPS overnight won't change the consultation material. It's just something that we need to be aware of.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kate.
It'll also be, again, when we look to finalise this, noting that uncertainty around that. We probably haven't got it, you know, highlighted enough in the CD that's there. But then on the plus side as well, you've got to remember the increase in, like the transport proposal we've got there, the increase in service is, you know, it's the incremental piece, and that's year 2 and year 5 where they step in. So we've also got the thing of, if there was a change, you know, because of that uncertainty, we'd be able to go back to the public to go, well, if the funding's not there, do you still want us to do it? And here would be the impact if we did. So we probably just need to flesh that out and make sure that that's clear to people, that that uncertainty is there. And that's what, you know, that's what audit would want to see around that sort of thing. There's always uncertainty in this, but it's making sure that we're letting people know and we're clear about it.
So when you say go back, would that be like next year's annual plan or something?
Yeah, the year 2, so the first annual plan would be if anything that was, you know, that we'd assumed had fundamentally changed and like funding had dropped out or whatever, we can reassess and go, well, we could still do it. What would be the outcome? Well, you could look at fares or rates, or we could not do it. And so that's where you revise that in your years 2 and 3 annual plans.
Comfortable?
We carry on with that.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is the feedback we're seeking from you. As I said before, accuracy, detail missing, anything needing clarification.
Cool.
And after that,
Whoops.
we're quite keen to have your feedback quite quickly, if that's okay. Because unfortunately we're up against some quite tight production deadlines with our suppliers for printed material. So we would really love your feedback by close of business Monday. And then we'll consider and respond to that feedback and hopefully be able to incorporate the changes that you want to make. And if you like, you could give some thought to the order of the topics that you prefer. Also, which ones do you think are going to be of most interest to the public? We have our guesses, obviously. We think in our team, we think rating is going to be the big one. and public transport. But that's, be interested to hear your views on that. On 20 March, the council will approve the document, and then any sort of minor issues that come up that day, we'll have a day to fix before we send it off to the printers in time for consultation to open on the 28th of March. So we're just anticipating it'll be hopefully some relatively minor changes at that point, but who knows?
Can I ask the Michael Laws question about how we're circulating this?
So there's a communications plan, there's no hard copy delivery. So we brought a plan a while back to council, which set out that it was going to be targeted online with hard copies available. So that plan, and Joe can speak.
I can speak to that.
How we're gonna get the message out there.
Yeah. So Kate, we've got two methods. So the first is around 300 print copies. And they'll be available at the libraries and also at our service centres here as well. And that's for people who aren't so keen on the online format. We'll also have the online version, and hopefully we'll drive most people to that.
Yeah.
But they will be given out at the drop-in sessions as well. So we have stacks of them there. Also on request, where people want the printed copy as well. And remembering that we're also planning to put out Te Matapuna, which is our newsletter, which will, in very sort of brief synopsis for each thing, profile what we're doing and drive people to the online version of the document as well.
Great, it's a good reminder. I just wanted to make sure that, so if we've got any concerns about libraries or depots that they may not be at, that we should be at, we can let you know as part of that.
Definitely, yes,
Thank you.
Elliot.
He's now been advised.
I was just wondering, what sort of accessibility accommodations we are including in that plan.
Yeah. So we have talked about sign language for one of the online drop-in sessions. We will try and make the font large. As far as our online version goes, it's a work in progress, but we'll be thinking about that too. And any ideas that you have, can you send them through? Thank you.
Right. So further questions about the CD, I'll launch into the second part of the purpose of the workshop. And that's around our community engagement, particularly our face-to-face part of it, which we're putting a lot more effort into this time around, and which is part of why we're here to sort of test the scope around what we're thinking before we actually fully implement it. So we do have a community engagement plan, and we've put the skeleton in front of you last year, and it's been fleshed out in a lot more detail, and we've actually begun implementing it. And I'll just jump into a detailed schedule, but before I do, I'll just highlight that we've got a series of events planned throughout the Otago region throughout April. And that's the bit that we're really looking for a steer from you about the scope of that. So I'll just jump into that bit.
I'll just add in there, in April, as it stands, we have no council or committee meetings. So we're free in terms of a meeting calendar. I know there's other commitments with some councillors on panels and things, but we have no other scheduled council engagements at this stage.
Okay, Michael.
Thank you. I just wanted to, I don't know if this is the right place to do it, or it's around the council table later on, but I just want to say how deeply unhappy I am at the lack of printed copies. 300's risable, and misunderstands particularly those who have difficulty with online reactions. Only stupid people have online reactions as their primary force, as proven by the census. 2 censuses in a row have been botched, and now we're pretending to go down that pathway as well. This is not democracy and this is not consultation when you do this. And I'll fight this all the way. I cannot believe that on a 3-year plan where we're imposing double-digit rate increases or seeking to upon our communities, and particularly the most vulnerable, those on fixed incomes like superannuitants, we're deciding that we're going to drive an online consultation device. It's madness.
Joe, look, just following up a wee bit. So the 300, and you've said you're going to have that. We're going to have these at our drop-in sessions. So if we do get, if we come to Oamaru on the 11th and we get the usual good crowd that turns up in Oamaru and a fair chunk of them take them, so where do we get your 300? How quickly will that? And meanwhile, you're going to distribute them around these centres as well.
Yeah.
Is 300 the right?
This is why we're talking about possibilities today. So 300 is our initial thinking, but if you want to increase that, that's okay. We're just trying to be, I guess, prudent in not wasting, I suppose, the resource that goes into that side of it.
Yep.
And print runs are relatively expensive these days. So, but we're happy to take your advice on that.
Yeah, Gretchen.
Your advice would be helpful as well in terms of other years if we have it, and just how hot a demand we did have for printed copies. I'm not sure if you know that or not.
Yes, actually, that's a really good question, and the numbers that comms are coming up with are really based on what we've experienced with other online consultations that we had, particularly during COVID, we only got positive feedback from people. We didn't get any negative feedback, and I put my hand on my heart. I think I've said this to this group before, and that I'd go a step further and say the online systems that we're using have been well proven in the UK, where they deal with huge numbers online, and we've actually heard from staff and councillors alike who've implemented these systems, and it's the way to go.
So just a reminder on process. So there's a paper to the 13th of December council meeting that had the communications and marketing plan for the LTP, and it was endorsed by council on that day that the LTP consultation document will be primarily available online. Printed copies still play an important role and will be available across the region at library service centres and possibly selected retailers. And obviously they are on request at any stage. We will get them to people, including the drop-in sessions. So if the feeling is that 300 is not enough, then we can up the print run. We did hard copy last LTP and had significant delivery issues, and obviously a significant expense for that as well. I think it was around 80,000 to do that delivery run. So appreciate the point, Michael. We brought a different option to council on the 13th of December, which was endorsed, which is what we're going ahead with, but very much open to feedback on how, if we feel there needs to be greater access to hard copies, how we achieve that.
Well, can I respond to that? First of all, what you're proposing now doesn't meet, in actual fact, the motion. And the motion was, I've just heard it about printed copies being available at selected retailers. I mean, you're now proposing 300. That's risible. So that doesn't meet the motion. And that's not what was presented to the council in December. The idea was that it would go out widely distributed and available. 300, God, you'd have to look for it somewhere. And can I just answer the nonsense about, oh, this worked in the UK? How many submissions did you get to the last long-term plan? I mean, it's a tiny, minute number of people. And one of the reasons is because you don't put printed information in front of them. No wonder you get less than 1% of the residents and ratepayers of Otago actually responding to the long-term plan. They don't know it exists. And there's the proof that the communication strategy fails.
Michael, in your patch, I just wonder if you could come either back to me or Joe with a suggestion of where you think it would be appropriate to have those, and perhaps then we could use that either as a multiplier or an indication for the whole region. So just.
I would listen. I've said this in December. I'll say it again. I've run these processes before and had a damn sight more success in the ORC. Supermarkets, 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 supermarkets. They are used by a significant percentage of the population. You have them available as you go out. You've got to stand. If you're not going to deliver it into every letterbox, there is a way in which you can get your material home, and it can go home with the shopping.
Gary, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. Did I see in a previous slide that the our newsletter, the Te Puna or whatever it's called, newsletter was going to be a special LTP run? And if that was the case, how comparative would that be to a consultation document if like that newsletter is what about 4 or 6 pages long? Would that be good, because that goes to basically every letterbox and I think is included in newspapers as well. So would that be a comparator to an LTP specific document?
It is actually a driver. We're going to use it as a driver to the document. So we're hoping to arouse interest using Te Mata Puna in the document. So yes, and it does go to letterboxes throughout Otago, and that was the method that I believe was initially proposed.
So why then wouldn't we specifically purpose one of those to almost replicate a consultation document?
Because it's a different medium, Gary, completely different. They are, one is a consultation document at 40+ pages. It's a booklet, and the other one is a 4-page advertorial for the booklet.
Yeah, but the only print medium we're looking to do is 300 prints, and the rest is going to be online.
We
Why
can do,
wouldn't we have
Gary,
the...
we can do more than that. If we want to, we can do more. So that's still a question that's open for you guys to address. It's at cost, but we can do more. And have them available at supermarkets.
Well, I mean, the other thing is all the costs in publishing something, are set up costs. So whether you're publishing 300 or 3,000.
We're just listening to Gary at the moment. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but I'm listening to Gary. He just hadn't finished.
Oh, sorry, no, I mean, my only suggestion was I think we have got a gap, but because we have that document, to not have it, given this is one absolutely critical activity that we do once every 3 years, then to repurpose that and just cover the salient points over what might be 6 pages would be what I would have thought the bulk of our ratepayers would be keen to be viewing and seeing in a print medium, as opposed to
Gary, sorry, I'll just jump in. That's what it's doing, exactly what you've just described. So the whole Te Mata Puna, all of the space within that booklet is focused on summarising the key points in the LTP and directing people to where they can find the information. So it's not just a panel within it, it's the whole newsletter. So we've taken one of the 4 Te Mata Punas that were approved as a trial and utilised it solely for the long-term plan.
Perfect. Okay, no, that then makes me much more comfortable. Thank you.
Thank you. Lloyd.
Oh, yeah, I was just wondering as well, I know on the last PA long-term plan that you could just go down to the local service centre and get one printed off if you wanted it. So, and you said you could go and have them at the libraries or service, like use the territorial authorities there. So that's an option as well. So you can print as you go.
Yeah, that is an option to print as you
There
go.
must be a way they have a charge back or whatever.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, we just leave them. The stack and ban.
Oh, yeah, but if you run out,
yeah, or
you can always print
drop
some,
more off or
Yeah.
give them a
Yeah.
file. But I mean,
they don't have
I'm
to-
sure they'd be generous enough to print for us. But just in case, we'd make sure we had access, through staff that we've got in those areas to be able to drop them off quickly, so there wasn't a long period where they were without them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
look, I don't know, it has to be always in a glossy bound up book. Yeah.
Can I ask another question?
Absolutely, Michael.
Thank you so much. This is a consultation document, right? So it's not the plan. So you presumably are directed towards the plan wherever you go. I assume the plan will be online. I've got that right, haven't I? We're talking about the consultation document today.
Correct.
Yes, that's correct, yes. The
So
actual.
why has it got to 40 pages?
Because that's what's required, in a consultation document needs to be short. It's not the LTP itself. And that's, yeah.
No, Michael's meaning it's long. So.
Oh, it's
which
40
is-
pages.
Which is down.
It's massively long in comparison to previous years.
Yeah, it is. And some of that is down to the number of rates changes, needing space to explain how many, Nick, did we end up with? How many individual rates changes? Anyway, okay, I mean, it's 10, 12, which all require a portion of space. So I agree with you, Michael. It's longer than a consultation document perhaps that would have been under normal circumstances because of the amount of consultation material we need to get out even in this document. It's ended up being a bigger document than it might otherwise have been.
The last one was 40 pages that we did.
Yeah, and it's not inconsistent with any other council across the country. We're not out of whack. In fact, we might be slightly less than many.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Can get up to 60, as Nick was saying.
as I understand what you said earlier, Mike, is that auditors said there's probably some other explanations we need still to put into the document.
Yeah, I think
So we're at
Joe.
37 now, but 40 is
Yeah.
probably where it's going to be.
I think Joe touched on it before. It's not going to grow too much more now. I think there'll be the survey. In the hard copy, there'll be the survey form at the end. In the digital format, the survey nicely runs with the content. So that's probably the key bit.
We're really making every effort to make this as short as possible because there is a lot of information to condense, but yeah, we'll send it to you and you can have a look.
But I think, as you said before, like it's much easier if it is a few more pages long, but those pages are, blocks that are visually a lot easier to get through rather than shorter, but it's just like massive things of text. Yeah.
Well, and that's the other point. Okay, so if you're going to stay at 40, it's a lot easier to read it in a booklet than it is to scroll through it online. So I'm just trying to make that point again.
No. Sorry.
Okay, seriously, how much marketing experience have you guys got? Yeah, that's right.
Can I just add, we are also responding to our community survey, which does have an indication that people are wanting to get their information more and more online. So we're keeping that in mind as well.
Michael, I'm not disagreeing with anything you said, and a lot of we're going to put our faith in Te Matapuna to lead everyone correctly to where we have, and for the consultation document to have a look at that, possibly have a look at that 300 number to make sure we have got it in the right sort of centres and ensure we are covering the right sort of spots. But Te Matapuna will lead us to those spots, and we'll have the copies available. Gretchen, sorry.
Richard said we did actually have a formal decision on the style that we're taking here as well. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So look, I'll draw your attention back to this is behind the simple schedule here is quite a detailed one around the work that's been put together to arrange drop-in sessions across the region, and the black ones denote the ones that have already been set up and there's been venues set up, and there's a bit of organisation behind them, and that's more than what we've done in the past, and that's the kind of the staff starting point. And the reason it's in front of you now is to test and get your direction on, is that scale right? And so for example, the light grey ones are ones that could potentially also be venues set up as well. So we could expand on what the staff starting point is. So your direction on that scope that we've got in this table here would be really valuable. And then, you know, once we get that direction, then we can send out the detailed schedule to you, and as councillors, you can flag which ones you're interested in.
Is it all
You
of it
intend
there?
on coming along to. No, that's it. So it's over, you know, from the 10th to the 18th, over a 2-week period, and the Fridays are sort of reserved for potential online webinars. Yeah.
And these will be advertised onto Mapapuna as well.
Yeah, so that's a good point. And look, just some other context around this. As Joe said, it's supported by that overriding advertising promotional campaign, of which Te Marapuna is part of that. And look, and under that material, you know, under that sort of campaign, there's possibly some material going to be made available so you can promote through your own networks, if you choose that. All these sessions have staff and information coverage across the 3 consultation topics. At the drop-in sessions, you've got physical setup. At each session, it reflects those topics. And plus, we have a 4th kind of general area because, you know, it sits, as you know, it's broader than that. And there's printed materials and visual displays and bits and bobs that support, you know, the engagement and the conversations that occur at those sessions. And you know, obviously there's process and ability for attendees to leave their feedback or information requests. And, you know, we can follow up on that. Staff would follow up on that.
Michael, you have a question? And then Elliot.
Yes, my question is, do you have a target for the number of responses that you want to get to the long-term plan?
We want as many as possible, and that we want to put our best foot forward and get as many as possible.
So you don't have a target?
No, there's no firm target.
Okay, so I mean, in a representative democracy where you're trying to actually engage the community on what you're doing, I mean, what would we consider to be a reasonable number of submissions in which we can say that our consultative strategy has worked?
So, Michael, is this with relevance to the slide that we've got up now to the number of places that we're going to consult at?
Well, I'm just saying that if you've got a strategy, which is what we're discussing today in this workshop, then it's always a good idea, it seems to me, to have some target that you want. These are the amounts of responses we get, because it then tests whether or not your consultation strategy, after you've been through it, has worked or not, or has met the ambition that you have created for it. And at the moment, doing our best isn't really an evaluative study that I would regard as being empirical enough to know if it's succeeded or not. So that's why I'm asking the question. Seems a pretty obvious one.
But we don't have a target. If there's a target that the council thinks would be a good representation to enable effective decision making, then you could set that target and we could work towards it. Our target is just to reach as broad an audience as we can and get as much feedback as we can on the process. But happy to take a target on board if council thinks that's the right thing to do.
Okay, well, I might raise that at the council meeting.
Yeah, and I just wonder if should that be brought through the regional leadership committee, possibly on ongoing policy around consultations, and if we are setting numbers as opposed to a council paper, if you brought that up at that forum. Cool. Councillor Wilson, Somerville, and then Robertson.
So, I think the more the merrier of these. I know it's time consuming, but this is where the rubber hits the road, fronting up and explaining it. And there's 2 things that I would take into account here, is where they're going to be the most significant changes likely to be, and I think Mosgiel will be one of them, or on the Tāori. So I gather it's informed from that. The other part of it is, and I take a very different view from Michael about this, but it's about how far away we are from a ratepayer. and access wise. And if I map this, and it's something we do all the time, but we don't actually say how far away. I mean, poor Tapanui gets missed out every time. But there's quite a long drive for a lot of those places from some areas, which just concerns me. And it's actually that I would like to take to regional leadership sometime about how we consult. But certainly, as long as we know that we're going to be somewhere near where there are substantial changes, I'm happy.
Alan,
Thanks. At previous meetings around community engagement, we've talked about looking for diversity of representation and trying to, a broad range of public participation, and in particular, groups who we don't usually hear from. How has that taken into account in either of these meetings or through the online and other forms of engagement?
It's taken into account through the way that we write the document and who our audience is and the age and easy assimilation of the information. So we're hoping that people of any age can pick that up and understand it for a start. Also, our channels also involve social media as well as digital, which goes into Google advertising and the like. And also we've got and we're taking a lot of our lead from our community survey, actually, that also says that print is still important, as Michael correctly points out to a large proportion of our ratepayers and age group. It's a fact that local government isn't interesting to everybody, to all age groups at certain points. We can always try our best to make sure that we cover all of those areas. So we've got all those different channels involved, and radio as well is also in the mix, and video.
Okay.
So Ellen, if I can just add to that too. So these would be the community drop-in sessions. What would also be supporting this is through the existing relationships we've got with a number of groups, and there's been some work done on key stakeholder engagement and developing some better relationships with some of the disability groups, the access for all groups. So those, we can reach out to those groups and make sure they're aware that we are now consulting on the long-term plan. And if there is ever a need for those groups, whether it's there's a group of sort of high school representatives that are pulled together by Rowan up at Otago Boys. So if groups like that want to have a session, we'll just pull an informal session together. Right. So, I mean, we've got a month and we can certainly do that. These are the ones that take a little bit more sort of organisation and pulling this together because of the bookings and everything else. But all of those other groups that we can reach out to through databases and existing relationships can be offered the same thing. And we can just do that on a bespoke level.
No, that's good. That will be in touch specifically with existing community groups this is on, but also can organise those things for those, such as those groups.
And certainly a message for councils, if you have existing relationships with groups that you want to run a session with and you want some support, then we can send someone in support. Right. If there's a specific topic, it could be Lorraine for transport, or me, or it could be Mike or Nick if it's more general LTP stuff. So we can always provide you some assistance to run sessions if you'd like to.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Joe.
Gretchen.
Thanks. I was just reflecting on what you were saying about consultation and targets, and what does quality consultation look like? And it's actually a broader topic, probably. I think you're right that if we were going to be thinking about that as a council, it's something we can do it now as well, that's true, but it looks bigger than just numbers and how many people are coming along. We could go along to every preschool in Otago and only target them and get thousands of submissions, but it's probably not representative of the rest of the community, perhaps. So you'd want to be looking at numbers, but you'd also wanting to look at demography and fairness and representation and all of those things, wouldn't you? And you'd probably want to have some principles exactly across all the work that we do. Anyway, Alan, you touched on some good stuff there, and actually Andrew Noon, you do some really good work working with groups such as the disability sector and age concern and others. They invite you to meetings sometimes, others do as well. Those are the types of opportunities where we can go along and drum up some more interest in this process. So yeah, I think that would be a good thing for us all to be thinking about individually. If we want more people to submit, we can do some work ourselves. Thanks.
Elliot?
I'm just sort of looking at the Dunedin spots and totally understand why we would want to target Mosgiel in there. But I'm just wondering if, given the South Dunedin work that we're doing, in my mind, isn't one of the main topics of consultation that we're actually looking at. Think I wonder if having a session there, you're going to just get people coming expecting the same consultation that they've had for all of the South Dunedin future stuff. That there's been a lot of consultation for that over the past year and stuff, and whether that might I don't know, tire people out a little bit, especially if they come in thinking that they're going to be talking about that and there isn't really that on the page. And whether, and also, I guess, wondering why there wasn't something for Dunedin at large, or even North Dunedin, for example, especially when the bus stuff is one of those top topics.
Yeah, but Elliot, and just adding to that, it's not only just the bus, it's the re-rating of the repayment of the loans on that as well, plus the lien stuff as well. So, and there is 55,000 rating units in the town, I think. Yeah.
The part of Mosgiel.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the idea, sorry, I'll probably confuse it a bit here, that the idea is that Mosgiel and South Dunedin, it's marketed for everybody in Dunedin.
Right.
And we were just, for the purposes of this workshop, we were just saying, hey, as well, in Mosgiel, there might be a particular focus on flood and drainage. South Dunedin, there might be folk coming along, which is just getting a bit more granular on what might happen. It might have been a bit too much for this workshop, perhaps, and perhaps just focusing on the scope is two enough for Dunedin. Looking through Central Otago, is that current spread that we've got in locations about right? The black ones versus some more, which might be the ones in light grey there. We've got one in Queenstown. Is that enough? It felt about right last time, but it feels like we're going out with more. There's more change. There seems to be a bigger consultation proposal this time around.
I know that's like land and water stuff, when you put on consultation in Central Dunedin, no one shows up. And so that might be why there isn't one for Central Dunedin, but I don't know, I think that could be good to even just have one in like Central Library at the uni or something like that, that might be a bit more accessible for the whole of Dunedin, that wouldn't travel down to South Dunedin for that one or something, and then everyone else can go to the South Dunedin one.
I suspect parking's an issue as well. I think we're thinking about,
But again, when the feedback, this will be circulated, Mike, with the draft. That Joe just, so absolutely fire in some stuff about that too, about what you'd like to see. If there's bespoke groups where you would like to host a meeting and might want some support, as opposed to having and fire all that in as well, because we can just think about, we've got to work out what we can fit in and where we put the resource. But it's useful to have all that, and then we can just come back and test it. Because we have done, well, I don't know, that wouldn't have been IRC, but we've used the library uni and the Polytech hub before, and very, very light in terms of traffic. So yeah, but I'd take your point. I mean, there is interest there around public transport.
One on the bus hub.
Gary.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm just thinking there is that suggestion that Kate made about some of those outlying areas. I'm thinking Glenorchy and maybe Terrace. You've got Ranfurly highlighted in grey, maybe Middlemarch. But then would staff be okay if a councillor such as myself was to say, I might be considering going and doing just a drop-in coffee session at one of those sites during that week, and make myself available. It's not really asking for full staff support, but it would be for the purpose of LTP. Would that be something comprehensible?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this process really is for councillors, Gary. So I commend that approach, and really the message from us is if you want any assistance in terms of material or staff, it's available. But if not, that's absolutely fine as well. If you want some help promoting it, we can do that. But if you also just want to take it off your own back, then there are no issues with that at all.
Yeah, I think the promotion part of it would be the one, and then, but yeah, I just wonder whether the likes of Glenorchy and the issues there, then it may be worthwhile to show a bit more effort, but it may not justify a full-on staff site. So, okay, I'll mull that over and come back to you. Thank you.
And it is I'm just going to come to Lloyd next, it's quite a distance for anyone in Palmerston either to go to South Dunedin or Oamaru. But I mean, that's equally the same as at Tapanui and the lights, but
By much.
yeah. So, and Alexa's got a hand up. I'm going to Lloyd first, then Alexa.
That's fine. Gary asked half of my question, but the ones that you got up there that are not highlighted on the same days, is that what we're discussing, whether we go to those ones as well? That's my first question, because if we were, you're probably going to have 2 teams, particularly on the 17th of April. The South Dunedin one, even if the meeting is in South Dunedin, can you not just call it the Dunedin one, as opposed to advertising it as South Dunedin?
Yeah.
And the other one is the possible hot topics. I think it's I think that's probably just for our information, but all topics would be available on the day because.
Good point.
Yeah.
It's for it's more for ours as in staff to think about who we might need.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not something that would.
Because I was just sort of thinking like the Bell Clutha one is probably going to have like the biosecurity, biodiversity one's probably going to be I think they'll probably talk more about that than regional transport, to be honest. But yeah.
Lots of them will be biosecurity.
And I think it's a good idea. We just need to be a bit careful. Like Tapanui, like I'm pretty sure have a talk and do a session in Tapanui somewhere somehow to give them that opportunity. But the other thing I was wondering is whether we can, and this is a question for me to the group, I guess, is it pertinent for us to go and say, go to some of the groups like the local Lions clubs or whatever like that and say, look, the long-term plans, consultations over the next month, if you want us to come and talk to you, we can. Or Rotaries or whatever, other clubs or golf clubs or whatever.
Do it all the time.
Hey, do it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a wee bit, but
Good idea, Lloyd.
yeah, I'm just wondering, I get a little bit nervous about just sort of having like a one councillor approach, whether we might, be doing those sort of like soapboxy type ones. So I think if there was like, one of us was doing one somewhere that you invite other people to be there as well or whatever, wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah. I've got Alexa, but I'll go to you first, Mike, just
look,
clarity around that.
there's a common theme coming up here that's fantastic. So this bit is just about the kind of the official drop-in sessions where you've got staff and it's, there's a lot of material and stuff there. Then there's the theme of councillor-driven boutique or bespoke, as Gary, I think, used the word, sessions. And there's a variety of different, ways you can do that, I'm hearing. We had a quick look and thought about that actually. And this is just a narrow look at it actually, just the farmers markets. You councillors are coming up with other options. But its point is it's the promotional bit to it. And it's about what you as individuals or as a collective might want to do or as teams might want to do to promote your CD. And look, we've just looked at the farmers market, then I think there's a couple of other things we sort of looked at and we undernard about. But the point is, AMP shows, South Dunedin Street Festival. There's another AMP show down there in Strathtyre. The ones we looked at, we didn't think were appropriate. for, didn't really fit with what a CD is all about, the LTP is all about. Highlands Festival of Speed, I don't think they're going to be. But some of the things I'm hearing you coming up with are just bang on.
Food for thought.
So we can also support you if you choose to go down this route and go to these events with information that you need, copies of the CDs and various other collateral that you might want to help with your engagement with the public at these events if you wanted to.
So, for example, if Gary wanted to have sort of a coffee session, Joe's team could have a nice HTML email template that looks really, really good, and he can send that out if that's one way he communicates. Different options. Yeah.
Good. Alexa.
Thank you. Kia ora koutou. I think it's notoriously difficult to get people to engage in these long-term planning sessions, but we do need to show willing and do that. And I know definitely in Frankton of an event at the Event Centre in Queenstown, we'll probably outnumber anybody that actually shows up. But we can work to promote that as well as we can. I think showing up this community engagement promotional events is quite a good one. The farmers markets in Queenstown are actually in Frankton now. The Earnshaw Park one's pretty touristy these days. So the Frankton one is probably more appropriate, but and I'd be really happy to do that. I mean, there's lots of discussion that I'll be having with my networks anyway, that'll hopefully get people to feed into this long-term plan, and that is our job to do that. I think it's prohibitive these days to try and get things into everybody's hands. I just don't think that really works anymore. So I guess this is all we can do, but I still expect a whole lot of screams when it really comes to pass because, yeah, people are a bit disgruntled on many levels right now, and we shouldn't be too worried about that.
Excellent. Elliot.
I just want to check when we do send that feedback, do you want us to let you know which ones we would definitely be able to come to and stuff?
Yes, please.
Will you send that out with the consultation document?
Yep.
Copy of?
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you. Lloyd.
Can I just ask a question? Like, are we intending to go to Roxburgh, Cromwell and Renfrew?
No. So the black ones were what we were suggesting, what we've started arranging, booking venues and stuff. The question is that the right scope? Have we got that right? We weren't second guessing that. So we're asking you. It felt about right to us. It's pushing it pretty hard, resourcing wise. So fitting in the grey, I think some of you picked up that adding the suggested grey ones is a bit of an ask. But then, some of you are touching on the alternatives to these sort of more formal drop-in sessions to reach those outlying areas.
Feedback would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I'm going to ask if an alternative is if we could be sent out a commitment calendar, and if we're prepared to put out where we will be for those copies, that will be part of the Te Puna, Te Matapuna perhaps, or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm happy to commit that I'll go to places.
Yep.
I may or may not get anyone, and there's no decent coffee in Te Puna anymore, so it's hard to do that coffee thing. But I'm really happy to commit to that and put it lock and loaded in our calendar, and it'll be really good. Then we can all see and go to any of those. But if they're not, it is really hard for us to advertise that if we don't have some.
We can advertise.
Yeah.
We can definitely help.
We
with the
definitely can.
Yeah.
We need, if you're prepared to commit now, it can be included in the stuff up front.
Yeah.
If you're still considering it, then once you've confirmed it, it
Yeah.
can be done on social media and,
Yeah.
and,
Yes.
and
Yes,
we
it
can
can.
get it out other ways. So the answer is yes in either case.
Yeah, and I think just having that councillor only thing is absolutely, with all that support, would be absolutely brilliant that we can cover a lot of those other areas.
And also using your own Facebook pages too.
Oh
works.
God.
We're going to Michael, then Gretchen.
My friends don't want to know about it.
Michael.
Just a couple of questions. I'm sorry, I've got diligent and I've opened it, but the consultation document, there hasn't been a draft circulated, has there?
No, circulated straight after this.
Okay, cool. Listen, I'm a bit of a believer in you take public perception surveys because you want to know what people think and then make them inform your decisions. One of the things that came out of our one was that people don't believe they're getting value for money from the ORC for their rates. And I think I heard one of the marketing people say at the start of today, rates will be, and public transport were the two big issues that we will put up front and center in the consultation document. Now, I'm assuming that the part on rates will be, this is how much it'll be for your area, and you'll be able to choose if you live in Central Otago or Dunedin South or Belclutha, you'll know roughly what the rates rise will be that you're encountering over the next 12 to 36 months, yeah? Have I got that right?
It's the section on those proposed changes to the way we rate that were voted on before Christmas. So the changes to the percentage for public transport and flood and drainage. So it's those different options when they're referring to rates.
There's about 12 different options.
No. Yeah, but what I'm asking, you're in the consultation material that you're putting out for the long-term plan. I assume you're going to be telling people what the likely rate increases are for the areas in which they live.
Yep.
And there'll be a rates calculator tool available as well.
And in the consultation document, it's at a very high level though. And then, that's what we want to drill down a bit further with that supporting material. And then ultimately they can drill right down to their own property in the rates calculator.
So because I think I remember in previous years, you've put out, like, if you live in residential Cromwell or Central Otago, this is the likely change that you're going to experience in your rates demand, or a farm worth over X in Waitaki. Is that right?
Yeah,
it's the same sort of concept.
Yeah, in the consultation document, we typically do a very high level for just example, like average or median for each district. But if you look at those rates examples we did, that's exactly what we did, was look at, we did residential, commercial, rural across each district. So those supporting examples will be there. So people will be able to very quickly work out from the examples where they sit and see, well, if that's an example of my type of property and it's gone up or down, then, hopefully that'll pique their interest to go and dig further and look at their own specific property, which they'll be able to do as well.
Okay. So when you talk about rates, and I think I've just heard you say that, Richard, you're saying, no, it's going to be more around flood and drainage schemes and things like that. Is that correct?
So there's both. There's a special consultation topic about the changes to rates, and then there's the general financial information, which is at a very high level impact on rates within an area of the region.
Okay, because I'm betting, and I'm just putting it out there, that most people will only really be interested, or their prime interest will be, how much more money am I going to be paying as a cost of this long-term plan, and the proposals are in it. And I just want to make sure that that's right up front and leading in terms of the consultation.
Yeah, it's
I'm getting nods all around, Michael.
yeah. I mean, there'll be a direct URL to the rating calculator. There'll be a little rating calculator icon when you get to the bit in the CD that talks about the rates changes.
Okay, so, but in the printed material where you don't have a rate calculator necessarily, does that itemize that as well?
We'll have some rating examples, as Nick said, that'll be at obviously a higher level, but nonetheless by district, by land categories, urban, commercial, rural, that kind of split. As we did in 21, except we can do it better now because we've got the modelling tool, the rating modelling.
Oh, listen, I didn't think 21 was bad. It was just the fact I liked the fact that I could roughly tell what my rate increase was going to be living in urban Cromwell as distinct from rural Waitaki or urban Dunedin. You're saying you've got a better program even than the one you lose last time.
Correct, yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
We had Alexa with a hand up, and then she's taken it down.
Yeah, I'm pretty good actually. I was just thinking about more opportunities and ways of doing things, and
Yep.
I was wondering what the Queenstown the 3 consultation topics would be.
They are
So for Wanaka.
Same for everyone. So the rates.
The
public-
others have got them there.
Oh, no, that's the, we talked about that when Lloyd asked before. So that's the areas for staffing that we just need to consider in terms of who we might get to these sessions. So that's just.
That's right, which I thought was around, and we haven't got anything like that in the Queenstown and Wanaka ones.
So if you've got, other than the 3 consultation topics, which we will make sure we can cover everywhere, if you've got
Okay.
that you think will be hot topics, just let us know when you give us your feedback and we'll throw that in the mix.
Right, thank you.
Thanks, Alexa.
I
Gretchen?
was just going to come back to the slide then, and whether we like the scope or not, and I like the scope. Yeah, I think you're right. From experience of going around these in the past, there's some where you can pretty much guarantee you're not going to get that many people. This time could be different with the PT rating, but I reckon we've got that about right, except for, yeah, Ranfurly's always marginal, I think, on whether you would include that one. Otherwise, I'm all right with that. I think Alex pretty much covers Roxburgh and Cromwell. It's not ideal, but yeah, it's okay. You quite often only get about 10 people coming to these things.
Yeah.
Comfortable? Remember, we've got the feedback if you think of any others. Carry on, Joe, Michael.
Yeah, let's go back to the presentation.
Just go back to. So when it comes to these events, hoping to use Te Matapuna as well to promote them, as we said before, with our mail out, and also targeted activities in all ORC constituencies via print, digital, social media advertising. Also, we're planning a short video of the main call to action, and we see that as to try to get the public to engage, and we want to promote those 3 top topics as the ones that will get people through the door, because it won't just be, you know, we're doing a long-term plan that's going to work. It's going to be, what are these topics that interest you that will hopefully work. And we'd really appreciate, I guess, your feedback on those ideas, and also any other ideas that you might have around promotional activities. And that's probably what I've got on the engagement side of it.
So probably the online sessions that you're going to have, are you going to slot those in between, because you'll need to duplicate the staff, I presume, or the odd staff members?
Yeah, so you might have noted we had the Fridays reserved. Two Fridays.
So that will be the Friday.
To do that. Yeah, so again, there's potential for councillors to get involved in that.
Yeah, so you'll want some of us available for those?
Yeah, so I think that the key message here is we've got to come back out to you ASAP, straight after this workshop, around, obviously the CDs coming to you for a closer look for feedback. And there's, I like the words that Kate used, a commitment calendar. Actually, I might steal that off you to get.
Your wife might ask you about it.
And look, there's 2 levels to that. There's, I feel like I'm repeating myself here, but 2 levels to that. There's the drop-ins that you want to attend, just signal those to us so we can start, because we'll be sorting out briefings for people, so you won't be going in cold to these things. regardless of how many people turn up. You never know. So we'll be prepared for whatever. And the second bit of it is the promotional bit, and I think there's some fruit there that we can kind of explore, and we'll connect with you at more of a individual level around that.
Excellent. Any further questions?
It's not, it's one of the best things you can do is take your computer and work people through the system is about the rates calculation. I think it'll be really, really powerful. And I hope that people take things with them.
Any further questions? Do you need to add any more, Mike?
I just picking up on Kate's point there. And look, I don't want to create work for myself here because it's pretty busy. But I think as part of the briefing going into this engagement, I think it'd be pretty cool for councillors to see what customers experience online. Because I accept my Councillor Laws's, views around that and hard copy and versus digital and all the rest of it. And look, I'll offer an opportunity to demonstrate, that new functionality that we have, that new system that we have, and the experience that customers will have. I think it's pretty cool. But for you to see that, particularly with people that you're talking to out in the real world, and
Excellent. Thank you. Was that the comment from up above?
Well, I was just going to say, you can lead a horse to water. So no matter how cool the gadgets you might have, if people of a certain age are used to doing this in the way that they've always done, then it doesn't matter how cool your gadget is. And I think that's the lesson of the last 2 failed censuses in this country.
Thank you, Michael. So, look, just summing up, in December, 13th of December, we had a motion on how we proceed. We're underway with that. We've got a key document coming out, which will be Te Matapuna, that will lead our people. It's going to be formatted so it's concentrating on as I understand, concentrating on the LTP. So that's going to be a very powerful driver to get everyone to our sessions and also to the documentation, the online format. We've got a documentation presentation. The draft document is going to be presented to us, sent out to us for us to have a look at, to see that we're hitting the mark and we're comfortable with it, of which we need to get feedback in by the 11th, by close of business on Monday, which is good. We'll also send a timetable of the events that we've seen up there, but also if there's any other options that we think of and want support with, will be good. Well, we need to get that back in the same sort of time frame so staff can be prepared and look at the logistics for that. There certainly is a question around the number of printed copies that you're originally doing, and I just wonder if you need to have a quick look around that number and the quantum of that, because even to me, it doesn't probably seem enough to get round to have that. So if you just have a look at that. And I suppose at the end of the day, the CE does do a customer satisfaction survey, and I suppose one of the key parameters will be a recognition of the ORC and its consultation processes. Do we recognise that they're doing it? Could be one of the questions in that consultation process, because there may be, I think it will be very hard to put a number, but we probably at some stage should look at a number with all these sorts of processes. But again, that doesn't say, well, Kevin and his 59 mates are actually very happy, so didn't put anything in or didn't reply. So it will be a difficult one to look at, but certainly that survey that we do is our consultation on the market. Are we doing things right? So, but Mike, Nick, Joe and the team, just keep nudging it on. Mike, keep us to time, because that's critical. And just keep reminding us if things aren't coming into you in time, or if you need further feedback, just keep to us, because we want to spend as much time with our ratepayers consulting and getting around them and getting that feedback to make it a good, strong process. And time being of the essence, we've got to get back out to a mighty Mosgiel. What ward's that in? Molyneux or something, isn't it? Yeah, yeah, we better get back out there and support them at 5:30. So if there's nothing else, we'll close this workshop and let you get underway. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.